As the evening air cools and the soft murmur of the world around you quiets, imagine yourself walking down a quiet street somewhere far from the rush of everyday life. The scent of fresh rain mingles with the damp earth beneath your feet, and the hum of distant voices fades into the comforting rhythm of nature. You probably won't make it through this day, but that's fine. This is a slow, relaxing journey, and we've got all the time in the world. Take a deep breath. This moment is yours. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey. We'll wander a little further back in time to the heart of what we know today as Mexico. Picture yourself in the bustling streets of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. It's early morning. The sun casts golden light across the stone temples and the lake, the air thick with the scent of cooked corn and fresh flowers. You feel a breeze that carries with it the noise of 100 different lives, merchants haggling, children playing, priests murmuring prayers. And then it's time to focus on something quieter, something that doesn't shout for attention. Find yourself near one of the many markets where a particular art form catches your eye. It's unlike anything you've seen before, vibrant, delicate, and surprisingly subtle. Feather painting. The Aztecs, renowned for their intricate craftsmanship, created paintings not with brushes or oils, but with the softest feathers imaginable. These artworks were not just decorations, they were deeply meaningful expressions of Aztec culture, used for ceremonial purposes and often as tributes to the gods. Feathers, as it turns out, were a currency in their own right. You might wonder, why feathers? Well, they were rare. Feathers like quetzal and hummingbird, in particular, could only be gathered by specialized hunters, or more accurately, by the very birds themselves. They symbolize wealth, power, and divine connection. Can you picture it? An artist bent over a table, meticulously affixing tiny feathers to create elaborate patterns. The feathers were laid down with such precision that the final image felt almost alive, as though the colors were still fluttering in place. It's remarkable how this craft, so tied to the spiritual world of the Aztecs, has faded into obscurity. Historians still debate whether the technique was ever taught in schools, or if it was a secretive practice passed from master to pupil in hidden workshops. Some scholars even wonder if the technique might have been lost altogether, disappearing into the folds of time as the Spanish conquistadors swept through the land, bringing their own artistic traditions with them. But there's something soothing in this forgotten art, isn't there? A reminder of how things once felt delicate, detailed, and intentional. A single feather, meticulously chosen and placed, could hold a message centuries long after the artist had gone. As you watch the market around you, the gentle movement of these feathered creations, you feel yourself slowing, almost as if the world is pausing with you. You know what? You've already forgotten what you had for breakfast, and that's okay. You're not here to remember mundane things. You're here to unwind, to find peace in the past's forgotten corners. The warm sun continues to filter through the dense canopy above you, but now you find yourself deeper in the heart of the Aztec world. You hear the rustling of leaves above and the steady beat of drums in the distance. It's a ceremonial time, and you're stepping into a grand temple, the stone pillars carved with images of gods and myths, bathed in the light of 1,000 candles. You feel as though you've crossed a boundary between the physical and the divine. The feathers you saw earlier, they weren't just for art. Oh no, they had a very specific role in the ceremonies that marked the rhythm of the Aztec calendar. Think of them as tools of communication now, not the kind you're used to with texts and phones. This was an exchange of divine messages. When these feathers were used in rituals, they weren't just decoration. They were part of a prayer, a gesture to the gods, a sacred offering, but not all was tranquil in this world. There's something peculiar about the whole business. The Aztecs, despite their undeniable skill in feather painting, had a rather complex relationship with their art. You see, the feather paintings were often done on the finest amate paper made from bark. Yet the more intricate pieces, the ones made for gods or the emperor, would be made using the most vibrant, rarest feathers in the world. We're talking about feathers from birds that lived only in the deepest jungles, or those that were so rare they could only be used for the most sacred of offerings. And there was a catch: only the most prestigious artists would ever be allowed to work with them. It was a privilege, but also a heavy burden. You might say it was like having the world's most expensive paint set, but no canvas to put it on. Art, as always, is both privilege and struggle. One of the strangest things about these feather paintings is how they often depicted gods in forms that are now hard for us to imagine. Gods with multiple heads or legs, gods with feathers themselves, gods whose forms seem to shimmer and change before your eyes. Can you see it now? The feathered gods, so vividly imagined and translated into an artwork that almost glows with life suspended in time. Some artists even believed the paintings could act as vessels for the god spirits, carrying them from one world to another. It was as though the artist's hand had the power to connect the earthly to the divine. Quite a responsibility, wouldn't you agree? Despite all the beauty and complexity of the Aztec feather paintings, there's something inherently sad about them. Many of the pieces we know today are the remnants of a once thriving practice. The Spanish, with their zeal for destroying native cultures, weren't shy about burning or removing these pieces, believing them to be pagan or simply too alien to their own way of thinking. Historians still debate whether the feather paintings were a significant part of Aztec daily life or if they were mostly reserved for ceremonial use. But one thing is clear: we're left with only a fraction of their original beauty, pieces scattered across museums, trying to tell their story once more. But here's a strange twist. The Aztecs weren't the only ones creating these works of feather art. The Mayans, too, had their own version of featherwork, and the feather itself held just as much power. Whether it was to symbolize the sky, the gods, or even the path to the afterlife, feathers were undeniably woven into the spiritual fabric of Mesoamerican cultures. It's as if they believed that to capture the beauty of a bird's feather was to capture the fleeting essence of life itself. As you stand there, surrounded by the ruins of what was once a great city, you realize just how fragile things are. History, much like the feathers, is delicate, each story held in place by the thinnest of threads. The feather paintings, for all their splendor, are a reminder of how easily the past can slip away from us, leaving behind only fragments to remember. Remember the market you passed earlier? The same one where the artist worked? It's still there, quietly going about its business. The sounds of the vendors, the hum of life, it never really stops. But now, it's time for you to turn your gaze elsewhere, into the past, where feathers once fluttered like whispers in the wind. And isn't it peaceful to know that you're here in this quiet space, experiencing it all again? You find yourself now wandering deeper into the heart of Tenochtitlan, your feet padding softly along the cobbled streets that feel impossibly ancient beneath your steps. The air smells like incense, and somewhere in the distance, the faint murmur of ceremonial songs floats through the humid air. You feel that gentle tug of curiosity. What is it about these people, their cultures, that holds us in awe even today? What was so special about their art, their crafts, their way of seeing the world? Before you, a temple rises, taller than you could have ever imagined, its sides adorned with intricate carvings of gods and warriors. These carvings, though striking, aren't the most important detail. No, the real marvel here is the smaller, quieter art form that flourished beside them. The feather paintings. They're often overlooked, overshadowed by the grandeur of the temples and the warriors' bravery. that they are no less important to the Aztec soul. Feathers weren't just art, they were a means of translating the spirit of the world into something tangible. A whisper of divinity brought into earthly form. Historians still debate the exact methods the Aztecs used to create their feather paintings. Some believe the feathers were delicately glued into place, while others think they were sewn into intricate patterns, each method requiring a steady hand and a deep understanding of the craft. Imagine for a moment that steady hand of the artist, the delicate motion of their fingers as they place each feather, the soft rustling sound of the plumes shifting in the breeze. It's almost as if time itself slows as you watch the pieces come together. You can feel the patience of the artist, the dedication to making something lasting out of something so fragile. The feathers themselves were considered sacred, a direct gift from the gods. Birds like the quetzal, whose feathers shimmered with the colors of the rainbow, and the hummingbird, small yet powerful, were revered for their beauty and symbolism. A feather could represent a message from the divine, a sign of favor, or a prayer answered. It was as if every feather held a secret, a tiny piece of the heavens folded into the fibers of the world. And yet, despite their revered status, these beautiful paintings were often used for the most mundane things, a tribute to a warrior's victory, a prayer for rain, or a gift to a noble. Imagine that, a powerful emperor receiving a feathered painting as a token of respect. The weight of the world, all balanced on something as light as a bird's plumage, while the grand temples and vibrant marketplaces captured the attention of the masses. The feather paintings were reserved for those who understood the quiet, subtle nature of beauty. They weren't in display of wealth or power, but of something far more fragile, the deep connection between humanity and the divine. The gods, after all, were not far away. They were part of everything. The earth, the sky, the birds, the people, everything was interconnected. And with every feather laid down on that delicate bark paper, the artist was reaffirming that connection, creating a bridge between worlds. Some of these paintings were meant to be burned in ceremonies, their beauty only ever meant to exist briefly, a fleeting moment of divine connection that would disappear as quickly as it had come. Others, more lasting, were carefully preserved, tucked away in sacred spaces. They weren't meant to be hidden, though no, they were meant to be seen. Imagine the delicate fluttering of the feathers as they caught the light of 1,000 candles, their colors shimmering like the stars themselves. A painting like that could only be truly appreciated in the quiet moments of reflection, when the world slowed down just enough for you to see it. But here's the thing, for all their vibrancy and beauty, the art of feather painting was also deeply personal. Many of the works we have today are those that were carefully preserved by the few who recognize their importance. The Aztecs, like so many cultures before and after them, didn't create for posterity, they created for the moment. Featherwork was not about fame or recognition. It was about connection, about holding a piece of the divine in your hands. You can almost hear the quiet laughter of the artists who created these works. Perhaps they joked among themselves about the sacred nature of their craft, but it's clear they were serious. There was no room for half-hearted efforts in their world. A feather painting was a dedication, an offering, and whether it was to the gods or to a loved one, it was a bond, something that tied people together in ways that words alone never could. As you linger in the silence, the sounds of the busy marketplace from earlier seem to fade. The smell of incense grows stronger, and the low murmur of the ceremonial songs carries through the air, weaving through the very fabric of time itself. It's as if you're caught in the moment, suspended between the past and the present, between the feather and the divine. Here in this space, the art of the Aztecs doesn't seem so far away. You can almost feel the pulse of their world beating quietly in your chest, reminding you of how fragile and fleeting everything truly is. The sun dips lower in the sky now, casting a soft golden glow across the remnants of the great city. The wind picks up, rustling the trees and carrying with it the sounds of distant rituals. You can hear the faint beat of drums, the rise and fall of chanting voices. It's as though the city is alive, breathing in time with the earth. You've been here before, haven't you? Not in body, perhaps, but in your mind, in the stories you've heard and the history you've come to know. The feather paintings, delicate as they are, offer a quiet glimpse into the soul of the Aztec people. And yet, as you look closer, you notice something curious, something that adds a touch of irony to this ancient art form. Despite the reverence for feathers, despite the care with which they were used, the Aztecs were, in a way, building their culture on a foundation that was far from permanent. Feathers are light, fleeting. They can't last forever. No matter how carefully you preserve them, they will always return to the wind, to the birds, to the earth from which they came. The city around you may be grand and impressive, but it is, in its own way, just as fragile. Temples rise and fall, empires bloom and wither. And here you are, walking through it, part of the quiet rhythm of time itself. You can almost hear the footsteps of the artists who created these feather paintings, their hands steady as they placed each delicate feather, each tiny piece of beauty. You know, they would have never imagined that centuries later you would be standing here, wondering about their work. Their feather paintings, though they may have faded, still whisper through time. Historians still argue about the exact meaning behind these paintings. Were they merely beautiful works of art, or were they something more? Some say they were used to invoke the gods, while others believe they were a way of preserving memories, a way of capturing the divine in earthly form. The truth, it seems, is a little less certain. The gods, like the feathers themselves, are hard to hold on to, and yet, here you are in this quiet moment, holding on to a story. You can almost feel the weight of it, the knowledge that what is fragile, what is fleeting, can still leave a marked dot as the last traces of daylight slip away, leaving behind only the soft twilight of evening. You feel the cool breeze of the night wrapping around you like a blanket settling over the world. The drums are quieter now, the voices distant and fading into the background. You hear the rustling of feathers in your mind, each movement soft and deliberate, as if they were still in the air, drifting through the memories of the past. Tenochtitlan at this hour is peaceful, almost serene, a city resting under the watchful gaze of the stars. Dot, as you walk through the remnants of the city, your eyes drift over the smooth stone walls of the temple. You remember the feathered paintings, each one a snapshot of a different time, a different god, a different story. It's easy to be swept away by the grandeur of it all, the temples, the intricate carvings, the incredible artwork that adorn the walls. But the feather paintings, so delicate and unassuming, have a different kind of power. They weren't made to impress. They were made to connect. They were the quiet prayers, the subtle offerings, the artwork of people who believed that every tiny detail mattered. Dot, and yet, despite their power, these paintings are now lost to us. The feather paintings of the Aztecs were not just beautiful, they were a form of communication. They were meant to bridge the gap between the physical and the spiritual, to invite the gods into the world of humans, if only for a moment. Imagine standing before one of these paintings, staring at the fine, detailed feathers, knowing that with each stroke, the artist was calling forth something greater, something beyond their own understanding. The weight of that connection is hard to grasp in today's world, where we are more concerned with text messages and hashtags than with invoking the divine. But there's a certain poetry in the fact that these paintings are now so hard to come by. They were, in a way, a temporary beauty. Feathers are fragile, delicate things, They don't last forever. And maybe that was the point. Maybe the Aztecs understood, in a way that we've forgotten, that beauty is not meant to last forever. It's meant to be fleeting, like a bird in flight, a moment in time that you hold on to for just long enough to appreciate it. It's almost as if the feather paintings themselves were not meant to endure, but to remind us of the importance of the present moment. You can't help but wonder what happened to the artists who created these works. What did they see in their art? What did they feel as they laid down the last feather, as they completed their masterpiece? You imagine their hands steady, their eyes focused, lost in the rhythm of their work, the world around them slipping away. They were not creating for fame or fortune. They were creating for something far more personal, far more meaningful. A connection to the divine, a quiet prayer painted in feathers. Historians still debate the significance of these feather paintings. Some believe they were part of elaborate rituals used only in the most sacred ceremonies. Others suggest they were more widespread, hanging in the homes of the elite, showcasing their wealth and status. The truth, like so much of history, is a little murky. But one thing is clear: the feather paintings were more than just art. They were a window into the soul of the Aztec people, a people who believed in the interconnectedness of all things, a people who, despite their great achievements, understood that the smallest details, the flutter of a feather, the soft rustle of a bird's wings, were just as important as the grand monuments they built out as you stand in the quiet night. The faintest sound of feathers drifting through your thoughts. You can almost feel the weight of the past. The empire may have fallen, the temples may have crumbled, but the art, the beauty, and the connection that the Aztecs shared with the world around them, that remains. The feather paintings, in their quiet, fleeting way, are still here, hanging in the air, waiting for us to remember them. The night deepens, and the world seems to slow down even further. You can almost feel the stars above you drawing closer, their soft light casting a silver glow over the ruins of the great city. The air is cool now, the rhythm of the day's hustle and bustle giving way to the stillness of the night. The drumbeats are distant, the voices quiet, as though even the gods themselves are resting. This is the time when the world breathes. You walk deeper into the heart of Tenochtitlan, where the echoes of the past are all around you. The city seems to be holding its breath, waiting for something. The smell of incense still lingers in the air, mixing with the damp earth beneath your feet. And as you move through the quiet streets, you find yourself once again drawn to the art that defined this civilization, the feather paintings. You think back to the artists who spent hours, days, weeks, months, even years crafting these delicate works of art. What was it like to be so immersed in the world of feathers? To take something as fragile as a bird's plumage and turn it into a symbol of the divine? The Aztecs believed that everything in the world was connected, that every tree, every stone, every feather was part of a greater whole. And when they created their feather paintings, they were creating something that was more than just a picture. They were creating a link between the earthly and the divine, a connection that could not be seen with the eyes, but could be felt in the heart. As you stand there, gazing at the remnants of a once great civilization, you can almost hear the faint rustle of feathers in the air. The feather paintings, though lost to time, still seem to whisper through the ruins, still seem to hold the secrets of a world long gone. You feel the weight of history pressing down on you, but it's not a heavy weight. It's a gentle reminder that everything is connected, that the past is never truly gone. It's always here, just waiting to be remembered. Historians still debate the significance of the feather paintings. Were they just works of art, or were they something more? Some believe they were used in religious rituals, while others suggest they were simply a way for the Aztecs to celebrate their connection to the natural world. No one knows for sure, but what's clear is that these paintings were important. They were a reflection of the Aztec worldview, a worldview in which every part of the world was sacred, and every piece of nature had its own divine purpose. As you move through the quiet streets, you can't help but think about the fragility of it all. The Aztecs may have believed in the permanence of the divine, but their civilization, like all civilizations, was ultimately fleeting. The feather paintings, like everything else, were temporary. They were meant to be seen in the moment, appreciated for what they were: delicate, beautiful, and full of meaning. And then, just as quickly as they appeared, they were gone. But maybe that's the beauty of it. Maybe the fleeting nature of it all is what makes it so precious. The feather paintings, though they may have disappeared into the winds of time, still live on in our imaginations. They are still here in the quiet moments when we stop to remember them, in the spaces between the past and the present. And as the night deepens, the stars above you twinkling softly, you feel that sense of connection once again. You are part of the same world that the Aztecs once inhabited. You walk the same earth, breathe the same air, and for just a moment, you share in the same quiet beauty that they did. The night has now fully settled in. The air is still cool, yet carries a subtle warmth that comes from the earth itself, breathing quietly beneath you. You feel the weight of time stretching out before you, as if the very ground beneath your feet holds the secrets of centuries. As you walk through the city's winding streets, you notice how different everything feels at night. The once bustling markets, the towering temples, the grand ceremonies, they're all now soft shadows in the moonlight, far away, distant, almost like a dream you can't quite reach. But the city, though quiet, is not empty. It's full of memories, full of echoes, and those echoes are caught in the feather paintings that once adorned its walls. As you move past the crumbled stone buildings, you remember the delicate flutter of feathers in the air, the way they shimmered in the light, each one telling a story. The feather paintings may have faded over time, but the messages they carried were far more enduring. You pause for a moment, caught between the present and the past. What was it about these feathers that captivated the Aztecs? Was it just the beauty of the birds they came from? Or was there something more, something deeper? You know that the feather paintings weren't just about decoration. They were a spiritual act, a sacred offering. But beyond that, they were a reflection of the Aztec worldview, a worldview in which nature and the divine were intertwined, where the slightest flutter of a bird's wing could carry a message from the gods. As you stand in the stillness of the night, you can almost hear the faint rustling of feathers in the air, as though the paintings are still alive, still waiting for someone to notice them. The Aztecs, after all, believed that everything was alive with divine energy. The stones of the temple, the plants in the gardens, the birds in the sky, they were all imbued with a sacred spirit. And the feather paintings were a way of capturing that spirit, of preserving it for future generations to experience. It's a thought that lingers just as the paintings did, suspended in time. There's a strange feeling that comes over you, one of connection. You realize that the artists who created these feather paintings weren't just making art for art's sake. They were creating a bridge, a link between the physical world and the spiritual one. Each stroke of the feather was a step closer to the divine, a way of pulling the heavens down to earth. It's a reminder that art, at its best, isn't just a reflection of the world around us. It's a way of shaping the world, of connecting with something greater than ourselves. Historians still debate the significance of the feathers, their true meaning lost to time. Some argue that the feather paintings were a means of representing the gods, while others suggest that they were used as a form of personal expression, a way to capture the artist's own relationship with the divine. Perhaps in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is that these feather paintings were more than just images. They were prayers, offerings, and stories waiting to be told. as you continue to wander through the city, you find yourself feeling strangely at peace. The past may be distant, but it isn't gone. The echoes of the feather paintings are still here, soft whispers carried on the wind. You can almost see the artists, their hands steady as they placed each feather with care, their eyes focused on something far greater than themselves. You can almost feel the weight of their devotion, the quiet love they poured into their work. And for a moment, just a moment, you are part of it. You are part of their world. The night stretches on, and the world seems to slow even further. The stars twinkle brightly above you, their light flickering like candles in the vast dark sky. The air is cool now, but still comforting, like the soft embrace of a long-forgotten memory. You walk slowly, savoring the quiet, letting your mind wander. The city around you is still. The temples, the marketplaces, the people, all of them have faded into the night, leaving only their shadows behind. And in those shadows, you feel the presence of something ancient, something lasting. As you continue your walk, your thoughts turn once again to the feather paintings. You find yourself wondering, what did they look like? What colors did they use? Were they as vibrant as the birds they came from? Or were they more subtle, more subdued? You imagine the artists hunched over their work, their hands steady as they carefully placed each feather. Perhaps they whispered prayers as they worked, invoking the gods with each delicate stroke. Perhaps the feathers were more than just images. They were part of a ritual, a way of calling upon the divine. The more you think about it, the more you realize how little you truly know about the feather paintings. What we do know is that they were incredibly intricate, made with the finest feathers from the rarest birds. Some of the feathers used in the paintings were so rare that they were worth their weight in gold. And yet, despite their value, these paintings were not made to be seen by just anyone. They were reserved for the elite, for those who could afford such luxury. Only the most skilled artists were allowed to work with the rarest feathers, and they did so with the utmost care and precision. Historians still debate the exact methods used by the Aztecs to create these feather paintings. Some believe the feathers were glued onto paper or bark, while others suggest they were sewn into place. Whatever the technique, it's clear that these paintings were a labor of love. The artists who created them were not just craftsmen, they were spiritual practitioners, channeling the divine through their work. It's almost as if the feathers themselves were conduits, allowing the artists to connect with something greater than themselves. As you stand there, lost in thought, you begin to realize something else. The feather paintings were not just about the birds or the feathers or the artists who created them. They were about the connection between humans and the divine. They were a reminder that we are all part of something greater, something that transcends the physical world. And in that moment, you feel a quiet sense of awe. It's a reminder that the smallest details, the delicate flutter of a feather, the soft rustle of a bird's wings, can hold within them something vast, something eternal. And as you stand there, under the vast starry sky, you realize that the feather paintings, in their quiet, fleeting beauty, are a perfect reflection of the world itself. Everything is connected, everything is temporary, and yet everything matters. The past, the present, the divine, it's all part of the same story. A story that continues to unfold, one feather at a time. The stillness of the night wraps around you like a familiar blanket. The world is at rest, but your mind continues to move, drifting from thought to thought like a feather caught in a breeze. There is something soothing in the quiet. It's as if everything has been paused for a moment, allowing you to catch your breath, to reflect, and to truly feel the weight of what came before. The moonlight glows softly, casting long shadows over the city's ruins, and the faintest rustling sound carries on the wind. It's almost as if the past itself is breathing, alive in the rhythm of the night. And there it is again, the feather, gently fluttering in your mind, the symbol of both beauty and fragility. The more you think about it, the more you realize that the art of feather painting wasn't just a reflection of the Aztec culture, it was a reflection of their entire worldview. The Aztecs saw the world through a lens of sacredness where everything, from the smallest grain of sand to the soaring quetzal, had a divine purpose. The feather was not just a decorative element, it was a conduit, a piece of the divine woven into the fabric of everyday life. As you walk through the ruins, you notice that the air feels heavier now, the weight of history pressing down upon you. It's as if the city itself is alive with stories that stretch out across time, waiting for someone to listen. You feel, in that moment, a connection to the past. The feather paintings, those delicate and ephemeral works of art, seem to hang in the air around you, still waiting to be seen, still holding the memories of those who created them. It's strange to think that something as delicate as a feather could hold so much meaning, so much power. Yet that's exactly what the Aztecs believed. The feather paintings were not just pieces of art. They were sacred objects, imbued with the divine energy of the gods. To create a feather painting was to participate in a sacred act, one that connected the artist to the gods themselves. It's almost as if the act of placing each feather was a prayer, a silent invocation of the divine. Can you imagine that? Each feather laid down with the intent to reach out to the heavens, to pull the divine into the earthly realm. Historians still debate the precise methods the Aztecs used to create their feather paintings. Some suggest that the feathers were sewn into place, while others believe they were glued or pasted onto paper or bark. There's even some speculation that the artists may have used the feathers to create textures, blending them into the surface to create intricate designs. Whatever the technique, the process was undoubtedly time-consuming and labor-intensive, requiring not just skill, but a deep understanding of the spiritual significance of the materials being used. The feathers themselves were incredibly rare, especially the quetzal feathers, which were considered among the most sacred. The quetzal, with its vibrant green and red plumage, was associated with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, and was believed to hold a divine connection to the heavens. The rarity of these feathers only added to the power of the paintings. They were not just beautiful, they were sacred, each feather a bridge between the mortal and the divine. As you continue to walk through the quiet streets, you find yourself thinking about the artists who created these feather paintings. What drove them to dedicate their lives to such intricate work? Was it the connection to the divine? Was it the desire to capture something fleeting, something that could never be held for long? Perhaps it was both. Perhaps it was the knowledge that their art, though temporary, would leave a lasting impression, a reminder of the sacredness of life and the world around them. You feel, in this moment, a deep sense of gratitude. The feather paintings, though lost to time, are still here. They live on in the stories and the whispers of the past that are carried on the wind. And though the artists are long gone, their work continues to speak to us, reminding us of the fragility of life, the beauty of the world, and the divine connection that ties us all together. The world around you is quiet now, the hum of the city replaced by the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. The stars above seem brighter tonight, as if they, too, are listening, waiting for the story to unfold. You pause for a moment, letting the silence settle in. There's something peaceful in it, something reassuring. The night has a way of bringing everything into focus, making the small details seem larger, more significant. And as you stand there, surrounded by the ruins of a once great civilization, you find yourself contemplating the delicate, fleeting nature of life, the feather paintings. You realize we're not just an artistic expression. They were a reminder that everything in life is fragile, that beauty can be found in the most unexpected places and that everything is connected. The Aztecs understood something that we often forget today, but the world is full of divine energy and that even the smallest details have meaning. The feathers and all their delicate beauty were not just decorations. They were part of something much larger, a larger story that we are all a part of, whether we realize it or not. As you walk through the quiet streets, you can almost feel the presence of the artists who created those feather paintings. You imagine them sitting in a quiet corner, carefully selecting each feather, each stroke of color, each tiny detail. It's almost as if they were weaving a story, one that transcended time and place, a story that would outlive them and carry their spirit forward into the future. In a way, they succeeded. Their paintings may have faded, but their message remains. You think about the fact that the feather paintings were once reserved for the elite, the priests, the warriors, the rulers. They were symbols of power, of divine favor. But what does that say about the value of art, of beauty? Perhaps it's not about who gets to see it, but about the act of creation itself. Perhaps the true value of the feather paintings lies not in their final form, but in the care, the devotion, the love that went in to making them. Historians still argue about the significance of these feather paintings. Were they simply works of art, or were they something more? Were they used in religious rituals, or were they simply decorative pieces for the homes of the elite? No one knows for sure, and perhaps we never will. But one thing is certain, the feather paintings were important. They were a reflection of the Aztec worldview, a worldview in which every detail, every moment, every feather had meaning. And in that, they leave a legacy that continues to speak to us. Even today, as the night deepens, you feel a sense of calm wash over you. The city around you may be gone, the people long since passed, but the art, the beauty, and the connection that the Aztecs shared with the world are still here. The feather paintings are a reminder of that, a reminder that even the smallest details can hold great meaning, and that the divine is always present. If we only take the time to notice, the night has grown even deeper now, and the world around you feels quieter, almost as if it's holding its breath. You stand alone among the ruins, the weight of history pressing softly against you, like the faintest whisper in the dark. The stars above seem to pulse with quiet energy, their light so distant, yet still reaching out across the void of time. The night, in its stillness, seems to hold its own kind of power, a power that is as fleeting as the feathers of the birds that once flew over this very land. As you take another step, the soft crunch of the earth beneath your feet seems louder now, as if the ground itself is responding to the passing of time. And then, for a moment, you are struck by the quiet beauty of the place, the way the shadows play across the ruins, the way the moonlight kisses the stone, the way the air itself seems to carry the weight of centuries. You are standing in the very heart of a once thriving civilization, a place where art, culture, and spirituality all came together in a delicate dance. And yet, all that remains now are whispers carried on the wind, like the fluttering of feathers. You think again of the feather paintings, their fragility, their beauty, their sacredness. You think of the artists who spent years, perhaps a lifetime, crafting these delicate works of art. How did they view their creations? Were they aware that their work, though fleeting, would leave a lasting impression on those who would come after them? Were they conscious of the fact that each feather placed with such care, each stroke of color, was an offering, a prayer, a connection to something greater than themselves? Perhaps the most striking thing about the feather paintings is the quiet power they held. They weren't flashy or grandiose. They didn't demand attention. Instead, they invited it gently, as if the divine were speaking softly in a language that could only be understood by those who are willing to listen. It's a kind of beauty that is easy to overlook, easy to miss in the hustle and bustle of daily life. But here, in the stillness of the night, you can almost hear the call of those paintings, still waiting for someone to notice them, still waiting. For someone to see the divine in the details. Historians still debate the exact purpose of these feather paintings. Were they used solely for religious rituals, or were they a form of personal expression? Some argue that they were a way of communicating with the gods, while others suggest that they were simply a reflection of the artist's relationship with the natural world. The truth, like so many things in history, remains uncertain. But what is clear is that the feather paintings were far more than mere decoration. They were a bridge between the physical and the divine, a way for the Aztecs to reach beyond the material world and touch the heavens. And that connection, fragile and fleeting as it may have been, is what makes the feather painting so powerful. Even now, Dot, as you stand in the moonlit ruins, the quiet stillness of the night wrapping around you, you realize how much of the world we take for granted. We rush through our lives, always looking ahead, always striving for something bigger, something more. But in doing so, we often miss the small, subtle moments, the delicate flutter of a bird's wings, the soft rustle of feathers in the wind, the quiet beauty that lies hidden in the details. Perhaps the feather paintings were a reminder of that, reminder that beauty, like life itself, is fragile, fleeting, and precious. Dot, the world around you feels even quieter now. The only sound, the soft whisper of the wind through the trees and the distant hum of the night. You pause for a moment, allowing yourself to soak in the stillness, to let the past and the present blur together in a single peaceful moment. The ruins around you seem to fade into the background, becoming part of the night itself. The only thing that matters now is the quiet, the serenity, the sense that everything is connected, just as the Aztecs once believed. You think again about the feather paintings, about their delicate beauty, their spiritual significance. There's something almost sacred about them, isn't there? They were more than just pictures on paper or bark. They were offerings, prayers, ways of connecting with something greater. They were a reflection of the Aztec belief that the divine could be found in the smallest details of the world, the fluttering of a bird's wings, the rustling of leaves in the wind, the quiet moments that often go unnoticed. Dot, as you continue your walk, you can almost see the feather paintings in your mind's eye, each one so vibrant, so alive with color, so full of meaning. You can picture the artist's hands, steady and sure as they place each feather, each stroke of color. It's almost as if the paintings were a form of communication, a way of speaking to the gods without words. Perhaps that's what makes them so powerful. They weren't about the artist's ego or their desire for fame. They were about something greater, something beyond the material world. You imagine the artist, hunched over their work, the quiet hum of the world around them, fading away as they focused on the delicate task at hand. With each feather, they were creating something that would transcend time, something that would outlast them. They were capturing the essence of the divine, the beauty of the natural world, and weaving it into something eternal. In that sense, the feather paintings were not just works of art, they were acts of devotion, acts of love. Historians still debate the meaning behind these paintings. Some suggest that they were purely religious in nature, used to honor the gods or to call upon their favor. Others argue that they were more personal, a way for the artists to express their own connection to the world around them. The truth, as with many things in history, is elusive. But what is clear is that the feather paintings were something extraordinary. They were a window into the soul of the Aztec people, a people who believed that everything in the world, from the smallest feather to the tallest temple, was connected by a divine thread. Dot, as you continue to wander through the ruins, the quiet, Peace of the night wrapping around you like a soft embrace, you can't help but feel a sense of awe. The feather paintings may have faded with time, but their message remains. The divine, the sacred, the beautiful, it's all around us, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be seen in the smallest of details. The world may change, but the beauty of the fleeting, the fragile, the transient, is eternal. And so you pause, breathing in the quiet, the stillness. For a moment, it feels as though time itself has stopped and you are suspended in that space, between the past and the present. The feather paintings, the artists who created them, the gods they sought to honor, all of it is still here, in the gentle rustle of the wind, in the moonlit ruins, and the soft flutter of feathers that only you can hear. The past may be gone, but it's never truly lost. It lingers quietly in the details. The night continues to stretch out before you, an endless expanse of stars and silence. The air is cool but not cold, the soft warmth of the earth rising gently to meet you. There is something deeply soothing about this hour, and almost dreamlike quality to the world around you. As you walk, the ruins of Tenochtitlan seem to shimmer in the moonlight, their ancient stones bathed in silver, as though they too are holding their breath, waiting for something. You can't help but feel that you're walking through history, through a world that once thrived, but now exists only in whispers. You think of the feather paintings again, how their delicate threads tied the mortal world to the divine. The art itself seems so fragile, yet in a way, it was eternal, alive. In the memories of those who created it, in the hearts of those who saw it, every feather placed with such care, every stroke of color was a piece of something greater. The Aztecs, with their profound understanding of the world, believed that everything, absolutely everything, was interconnected. The earth, the sky, the gods, the birds, the people. And in the feather paintings, they captured that sacred connection. The feathers, so delicate, so fleeting, were used to immortalize the divine, to preserve the essence of life itself. What a beautiful paradox, isn't it? To use something as fragile as a feather to represent something as eternal as the gods. As you stand in the quiet of the night, you wonder how the artists must have felt as they worked, carefully placing each feather with such precision. They weren't just artists, they were creators, diviners, and spiritual guides, each movement of their hand an offering to the divine. Their art was not just for them, not for fame or recognition, but for something much larger. It was a way to connect with the heavens, to touch the gods with the lightest of touches. Historians still debate how the Aztecs viewed their art. Was it purely ceremonial, a ritual meant to please the gods? Or was it more personal, a way for the artist to connect with their own soul and with the world around them? There's no way to know for sure. What we do know, however, is that these feather paintings were more than just decoration. They were a language of symbols, of feathers, of colors that spoke directly to the divine dot. It's hard to imagine what it must have been like to live in that world, where every moment was imbued with sacred meaning. The Aztecs didn't just paint with feathers, they painted with the divine itself. Can you feel the weight of that? How every feather, every detail, was part of something far larger than the artist or the viewer. It's a feeling that's hard to capture in words, but you feel it now, standing in the quiet ruins, bathed in the soft light of the moon. The breeze picks up, stirring the leaves of the trees, and for a moment, you think you can almost hear the feathers rustling in the wind. Perhaps it's just your imagination, or perhaps it's the lingering energy of the feather paintings, still alive in the air, waiting for someone to notice them. You can almost see them now, the feathers laid delicately on the bark paper, each one chosen with care, each one a prayer, a connection to the divine. It's as if the very act of creating the paintings brought the artist closer to the gods. As if each feather was a bridge between the mortal and the sacred, you walk deeper into the ruins, your steps soft and measured. There's a sense of reverence in the air now, a quiet acknowledgement of the past. The feather paintings, though they may no longer be visible, are still present in this space. You can feel them hanging in the air like a memory, waiting to be remembered. The Aztecs were masters of symbol and meaning, and their feather paintings were no exception. Each feather, each stroke of color, was imbued with significance. The Quetzal feather, for example, was not just beautiful, it was sacred. It represented Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, and was a symbol of the heavens, of the divine. To use a Quetzal feather in a painting was to bring the gods into the world of men, to offer a piece of the divine to those who would gaze upon it. Can you imagine that? The idea that a simple feather could carry such weight, such power. And yet, the feather paintings were not just about the gods. They were also about the people who created them, the artists who painstakingly placed each feather, each delicate stroke, were not just making art for art's sake. They were participating in something far larger than themselves. They were creating a connection, a bond between the world of the living and the world of the divine. And in doing so, they were capturing a piece of eternity, a moment of divine beauty that would be preserved, not in stone or in writing, but in the fragile flutter of a bird's feather. Historians are still uncertain about the exact purpose of these feather paintings. Were they purely ceremonial? Were they meant to honor the gods, or were they used as a form of personal expression? The truth is, we may never know for sure. But what's clear is that the feather paintings were more than just art. They were an act of devotion, a way of connecting with the divine. Each feather placed with such care, each delicate brushstroke, was a prayer, a plea for favor, a message sent to the gods' dot as you continue your walk through the ruins. You can feel the quiet power of the feather paintings lingering in the air. The world around you may have changed, but the spirit of the Aztecs remains, still alive in the details. The fragile feathers, the delicate beauty, the divine connection, they are all still here, waiting to be remembered. And so, as you pause once more, surrounded by the stillness of the night, you realize that the feather paintings were not just about the past. They are a part of the present, a reminder that the divine is always with us, if only we take the time to notice. The world may change, civilizations may fall, but the beauty of the fleeting, the fragile, and the sacred remains. Just as it always has dot in that quiet moment, you feel connected not just to the past, but to the world around you. The rustle of the leaves, the soft flutter of feathers in the wind, the ancient stones beneath your feet, all of it is part of the same story. A story that continues to unfold, one delicate, divine detail at a time. The air feels even colder now, and a faint mist begins to rise from the earth, softening the sharp edges of the ruins. The wind carries a cool dampness that brushes against your skin, and for a moment, you think of how everything seems to settle into the quiet of the night. The world is hushed as if nature itself respects the sanctity of the past, holding it, close and quiet in its embrace. The moon is full, casting its pale light across the landscape, making the crumbling stones glow with an ethereal, almost otherworldly radiance dot in this stillness. It's hard to tell where the past ends and the present begins. You've walked through history before, but tonight it feels as though history has walked through you. It's in your breath and the stillness of the ruins around you, in the very air you breathe. You think of the feather paintings again, those quiet, delicate works of art that once brought divine beauty to the Aztec world. They were fleeting, fragile, and yet, in their own way, they were immortal. The colors may have faded, the feathers may have loosened and drifted away, but the meaning, the connection to something greater, still lingers in the air. Like a whisper that refuses to die out as you walk through the ruins, your mind drifts back to those artists, those creators who worked with such care and dedication, who used their hands to place each feather as a gift to the gods. Each painting was a prayer, a connection between this world and the next. You can almost feel their presence, their quiet determination, as if they are still here, standing beside you, offering their work to the world with the same devotion they had when they first created it. What would it have been like to sit with one of those artists, to watch their hands move with such careful precision, to feel the weight of their devotion in every motion? You imagine them working in the dim light of a small workshop surrounded by the rarest feathers, each one chosen for its beauty, its meaning, its divine connection. They weren't just creating art, they were creating something that transcended time, something that would continue to speak to generations long after their hands had stopped working. In that moment, you realize that the true power of the feather paintings wasn't in their beauty alone. It was in the act of creation itself. The Aztecs didn't just make art for decoration or for admiration. They created because it was a spiritual act, an offering, a way of connecting with something larger than themselves. And that connection, as fragile and fleeting as it may have been, is what gave the paintings their power. You pause, letting the quiet settle around you, and for a brief moment, you feel that same sense of connection. You feel it in the wind, in the rustle of the leaves, in the soft flutter of feathers that seem to be carried on the breeze, just as they were carried by the artists who placed them so carefully, so lovingly into their paintings. The world may have changed, but that connection remains. The divine is always present, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be remembered. The wind picks up again, a cool, gentle breeze that sweeps through the ruins, brushing against your face, lifting the strands of your hair. It feels like nature's soft breath, a reminder that time moves on, but the world continues to change, to evolve. The ruins, once the heart of a thriving civilization, are now a quiet testimony to what has come before. And as you walk through them, you're reminded once more of the fragility of life, how quickly things can change, how fleeting moments of beauty and connection can be. The feather paintings, delicate and intricate, seem to hang in the air around you, invisible but present all the same. It's as though the past is still here, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be seen. You think again of the artists who created them, those who placed each feather with such care, with such devotion. They were creating something sacred, something that would outlive them, something that would continue to speak to the divine long after they were gone. They were not just making art, they were participating in something larger, something eternal. And in that eternal act of creation, they left behind a piece of themselves, a piece that continues to echo through time. As you walk, you begin to think about your own life, about the moments that feel fleeting, the moments that feel as fragile as the feathers in the paintings. It's easy to get caught up in the rush of life, in the constant movement from one thing to the next, without stopping to appreciate the beauty in the small, quiet moments. But the feather paintings remind you of something important, that the smallest details, the smallest gestures, are the ones that matter most. The act of creation itself is sacred, no matter how small or fragile the creation may be. The feather paintings, in their delicate beauty, remind you that everything is connected, that the divine is present in every moment, every brushstroke, every feather placed with love and care. The wind whispers around you again, and you feel a deep sense of peace, a quiet knowing that all of this world, these ruins, this connection is part of something larger than you can fully understand. And in that knowing, you feel a sense of calm, a quiet acceptance that the world is, in its own way, perfect just as it is. Historians still debate the purpose of the feather paintings. Were they purely for religious purposes, or were they also a way of capturing the artist's own soul, a way of expressing their connection to the world. Some say they were used in ceremonies, while others believe they were a form of personal devotion, a reflection of the artist's relationship with the divine. But perhaps the true meaning of the paintings lies in their impermanence, their fragility, their fleeting beauty. The fact that they were created with such care and devotion, only to disappear with time, is a reminder that nothing in this world lasts forever. But that doesn't make it any less meaningful. The paintings may have been lost to time, but the essence of what they represented, the connection to the divine, the sacredness of life, the beauty in the fleeting is still here. And as you stand in the quiet night, surrounded by the ruins of a long-lost world, you realize that the feather paintings, in their impermanence, have left behind something eternal. They have left behind a reminder that everything is connected, that the divine is present in the smallest details, and that beauty can be found in the most fragile, fleeting moments of life. And so, as the night deepens and the stars shine brighter, you allow yourself to be fully present in this moment. The ruins may crumble, the feathers may fade, but the connection remains, as strong and enduring as the stars above you. You are part of the same world, the same story, the same eternal connection that has always existed and always will. And in that quiet understanding, you feel a sense of peace that carries you forward, into the night, into the future, and into the heart of the divine. The night feels even deeper now, as though you've slipped further into the folds of time. The ancient city around you seems to breathe with the rhythm of the stars above, slow, steady, and eternal. The ruins, bathed in moonlight, have taken on an almost mystical quality, their jagged edges softened by the gentle glow. It's as though the world itself is stretching out, far beyond the city's boundaries, and you are standing at the center of it, caught in the delicate web of history, art, and time. You can't help but think of the feather paintings again. Those fragile masterpieces, now lost to us in their physical form, but never truly gone. The feathers, soft and vibrant, were more than just adornment. They were a way of capturing the divine, of holding on to something greater than the fleeting moments of mortal life. These paintings weren't just about beauty or skill. They were about connection. Each feather placed, each stroke made, was an attempt to bridge the gap between the heavens and the earth. The artists who created them were not simply painting. They were weaving a thread of continuity, connecting their world to the divine world in ways that words and actions could not dot as you walk. The wind stirs the air again, a soft caress that feels almost like the breath of the past itself. The quiet rustling of the trees, the whisper of feathers brushing together, carries a weight of memory. And for a moment, it's as though the world around you has quieted, waiting, listening, as if in reverence for the art that once filled this place. You think of the artists who created the feather paintings, their delicate hands placing each feather with precision, with intention. Perhaps, like all great artists, they didn't know if their work would stand the test of time. They didn't know that, centuries later, people like you would stand among the ruins, wondering about their art, their lives, their connection to the world around them. But they did know something essential, that their work had meaning, and that each feather, no matter how small, carried with it a message. A message that was meant to be passed down, not through words, but through the delicate brush of the artist's hand, through the fragile flutter of a feather caught in the wind. Historians are still divided over the purpose of these paintings, whether they were purely ceremonial, created as offerings to the gods, or whether they were a more personal expression of the artist's relationship with the divine. Some say they were meant to be displayed in secret spaces, while others believe they were used as a form of prayer, a way to communicate with the gods without speaking a word. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. What we do know is that the feather paintings, though fleeting, held within them something eternal, a sense of devotion, a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves. As you stand there, in the quiet of the night, you begin to understand something fundamental. The paintings weren't just beautiful, they were spiritual. They were a way to manifest the divine on earth, to make the invisible visible, to bring the gods closer to the people. The feathers, in their softness and fragility, were a physical representation of the ethereal, something that was meant to be touched and felt, just as the divine is meant to be experienced in the smallest of moments, in the quietest of ways. And yet, as beautiful and sacred as the feather paintings were, they were still fragile, just as everything in life is fragile. They were made with the finest feathers, the rarest materials, but in the end, they were just like the world around them, subject to time, to change, to decay. The paintings were created to be experienced in the moment, in the presence of those who understood their significance. Once completed, they were not meant to last forever. They were a transient beauty, a brief moment of connection, a reminder that nothing in this world is permanent. But even in their impermanence, the paintings left behind something powerful. The essence of the artist's devotion, the feeling of connection to the divine, lingers in the air and the very fabric of the ruins. The paintings may have faded, but the spirit of the art, the love, the devotion, the reverence for the gods is still here, hanging in the air, waiting to be remembered. The wind shifts again, colder now, and a quiet, peaceful stillness settles over everything. The city, once full of life, now lies dormant, its ruins speaking softly to the night. The moon casts its light over the crumbling stones, the shadows lengthening, stretching out into the quiet. As you walk, your feet barely make a sound, the earth beneath you soft and cool. You pause for a moment, taking it all in, the beauty of the ruins, the stillness of the night, and the presence of something greater that hangs in the air, unseen but palpable. You think about the feather paintings once again. They were created in this very space, this sacred ground, each feather placed with love, each color chosen to represent the divine, each moment spent in devotion. You think about how, even in their fragility, the paintings were a testament to the perseverance of the human spirit. They were an expression of the longing for connection, for something greater than ourselves. The Aztecs may have believed in many gods, but in their art, they were all united, woven together by the delicate threads of feathers, of devotion, of hope. The feather paintings were more than just objects of beauty. They were a message, a conversation between the artists and the divine. They were an offering, a prayer made visible in the soft flutter of feathers and the quiet strokes of the artist's hand. And even though the paintings have long since faded, the message remains. The divine is still here, waiting to be found, waiting to be seen in the smallest details. In the quiet moments of life, you find yourself reflecting on the fragility of life itself, how easily things can change, how quickly they can slip away, just like the fleeting beauty of the feather paintings. The artists who created these works may have known that their creations would not last forever, but they also knew something else, that beauty, true beauty, is found not in permanence, but in the act of creation itself. It's in the devotion, the love, the intention that goes into every stroke, every feather, every moment of life. It's in the fleeting moments that we find meaning, even when they slip away before we can fully grasp them. As you walk through the ruins, you feel that connection to the past, to the artists who worked here, to the feather paintings they created. The world around you is quiet now, but the spirit of the past is alive in the air, in the wind, in the gentle rustle of the trees. The paintings may be gone, but the love, the devotion, the connection to the divine, that remains. And that is what makes the art and life itself so precious. It's not about what lasts forever. It's about what we create in the moment, what we give of ourselves to the world. and how we connect with the beauty and fragility of the world around us, Dot. And so, with a quiet breath, you step forward into the night, knowing that the past and the present are intertwined, that everything is connected, and that even in the fleeting moments, we find eternity. The night deepens further, wrapping the world around you in an even softer blanket of silence. The stars seem to glimmer brighter now, more vivid in their stillness, and the world feels suspended in time. The air is cooler, the breeze almost imperceptible, and the shadows around you stretch longer, as though the very earth is yawning into the dark, endless expanse of night. You stand amidst the ruins, where the echoes of the past seem to hum just beneath the surface. Like a hidden melody waiting to be heard, Dot, in the quiet, the feather paintings return to your thoughts once again. You think of the intricate process of their creation, the careful placement of each feather, the hours spent choosing the right materials, the right colors. There was nothing accidental about them. Each brushstroke, each feather laid in its place, was part of something larger than the artist, larger than the culture, larger than the moment. The paintings were a meditation, an offering to the divine, an attempt to capture that sacred connection between heaven and earth, Dot, in many ways. The paintings were an act of faith, to create something so fragile, so delicate, and to offer it to the gods. Wasn't that a leap of faith in itself? The artists knew that the paintings would not last forever, just as the birds' feathers that composed them would not. Everything in the world is fleeting, impermanent, and yet these artists believed that by placing their devotion into something as delicate as a feather, they could make a connection to something eternal, something divine. It's strange, isn't it, to think of how we see things in terms of permanence, of what will last and what will endure. But the Aztecs understood something we often forget, that the fleeting, the fragile, the temporary is just as important as the lasting. The feathers, with their soft textures and brilliant colors, were not meant to be permanent. They were meant to be seen in their moment, to be appreciated for what they were in that brief instant of time. And in that brief moment, they captured something far larger than themselves. You pause, letting the stillness sink deeper into you. The ruins are quiet, the stones smooth under your feet, the faint sound of the wind stirring the leaves above. It's almost as if time itself has slowed, as though the world is giving you this moment to understand. The past is always with us, just as the feather paintings are, not in the physical sense, but in the feeling, in the memory, in the air. Their message lives on, not because they were preserved in some grand museum, but because they were created with love, with intention, and with a belief in the sacredness of the act itself. Historians may argue over the precise meaning of these feather paintings, whether they were meant to honor the gods, to capture the divine, or simply to express the artist's soul. Some say they were a means of bridging the gap between the mortal and the divine, while others claim they were a way to preserve beauty in a world that was constantly changing. Perhaps it was all of those things. What we do know is that the feather paintings were not created for the sake of fame, for accolades, or for wealth. They were created because the artists believed in something greater than themselves. As you stand there, surrounded by the ruins, the wind gently brushing your skin, you feel a deep sense of peace. The feather paintings, like everything in this world, were ephemeral, temporary. They may have faded, but they have left something behind. Not just in the remnants of their feathers or the fragments of their images, but in the feeling they evoked of connection, of devotion, of reverence for the divine in all things. And in that, their beauty endures. The night is now fully settled, the world around you holding its breath in perfect stillness. The ruins, bathed in the soft glow of the moon, have taken on an almost sacred quality, their weathered stones telling stories that only the wind and the stars can truly understand. The stars above shimmer with a quiet intensity, as if they too are listening to the whispers of the past, carrying with them the messages of a long-gone world. You think again about the feather paintings, those delicate works of art that once adorned the walls of Tenochtitlan. Though they may no longer be visible, though their vibrant feathers have long since faded into the dust of time, their essence still lingers. It's as if in some quiet corner of the world, the paintings still exist, waiting for someone to remember them, to honor the artists who created them, and to understand the sacredness of their work. The act of creation, the devotion of the artists, was not just about making something beautiful. It was about making a connection, about reaching beyond the physical world and touching the divine. The feathers, chosen with such care, were not just material things. They were vessels, conduits for something greater, something eternal. And in that moment, the artists were part of something larger than themselves, a web that connected them to the heavens, to the earth, and to all who came after them. You stand in the quiet night, the world around you still and peaceful, and for a moment you feel a deep sense of gratitude. The feather paintings were fleeting, but their message remains. It's not about the permanence of the physical object. It's about the beauty, the connection, and the love that was poured into its creation. The divine may be hidden, veiled, in the smallest details of life, but it is always there, always waiting to be seen, always waiting to be remembered. As the wind gently brushes past you, you feel a sense of calm wash over you. The past and the present have merged together in this quiet moment. The feather paintings may be gone, but their spirit remains carried on the wind, in the rustling of the leaves, in the whisper of the air. And in that moment, you realize that beauty, true beauty, is not in what lasts forever, but in the act of creation itself, in the devotion, the love, and the connection that we share with the world around us. You take a deep breath, feeling the peace of the night settle into you. The world, in all its fragility, is beautiful. The divine, in all its fleeting moments, is eternal. And in that understanding, you feel a quiet sense of belonging, a quiet peace as the night stretches on, full of quiet whispers and gentle feathers. Floating in the wind, I've reached the end of the story now, and the quiet of the night feels deeper, more settled. You stand here, surrounded by the whispers of the past, the echo of the feather paintings still alive in the air, in the space between the stars and the earth. The wind has stilled, the breeze now a memory of movement, and in this quiet stillness, you feel a deep peace, unhurried, untroubled. In these last moments, the night holds you close, the story of the Aztecs, their artistry and their spiritual devotion wrapped around you like the soft blanket. The feather paintings may no longer be visible to the eyes, but their essence lingers, woven into the fabric of this place. Just as the world spins in seasons change, the divine whispers can still be found hidden in the smallest of things, in the flutter of a bird's wings or the brush of a feather. You've walked through the ruins of Tenochtitlan, through a story of fragility, impermanence, and beauty. You've stood in the presence of artists long gone, yet still present in the memory of their work, in the delicate feather that once graced a painting, and in the reverence they infused into every brushstroke. Their devotion is part of the night, now part of you. In this quiet moment, you understand something essential. Beauty does not reside in the permanent or the grand. It resides in the small, fragile moments, the brief flashes of connection between the divine and the mortal. As you breathe in the cool night air, the peaceful stillness carries you gently, like a feather floating on the wind. The past, with all its ancient stories, may be distant, but it never really fades. It lingers, woven into the present, quietly, reverently, like the soft rustle of feathers in the breeze. Now, let the world around you fade, just like the feathered paintings, delicate, fleeting, but still part of the eternal dance of life. Allow yourself to rest in the comfort of knowing that everything is connected, that the divine is in the small details, and that the beauty of a moment, however brief, is always worth cherishing. The runes are still, the night is still. The story has come to a gentle end, and you too find rest.